Welcome to Stronger Minds, Stronger Men, where we dive deep into the real conversation around men's mental health. I'm Austin, and this is a space where we break the silence, challenge stigmas, and explore the struggles that men face every day. Whether you're here for yourself, a friend, or a loved one, know you're in the right place. Today, we're starting at the root of the issue: why men's mental health is so often overlooked, and why so many suffer in silence. Starting with a bit of history of men's mental health. So let's get started. Let's start with some facts. Did you know that men are nearly 4 times more likely to die by suicide than women? 4 times. To put that into perspective, men make up about 50% of the US population, but account for 80% of the 49,000 suicides that happened in 2022. 80%. That's a staggering number, and it should stop us all in our tracks. According to Heads Up Guys, approximately 12 men lost their lives to suicide every single day that same year. 12. Every single day. That's 12 fathers, brothers, sons, friends gone. And for every man who takes their own life, there are many others who are wrestling silently with those same thoughts, carrying the same pain, but still waking up every morning and pushing through. In 2023 alone, an estimated 7.5 million men in the U.S., approximately 4.5% of the male population, reported seriously contemplating suicide. Let that sink in for a second. That's millions of men who have felt so lost, so overwhelmed, or so disconnected that they seriously considered ending their own lives. And chances are, you know someone who's struggling, or maybe you've been there yourself. Then there's the issue of substance abuse. Men make up the majority of those battling substance abuse disorders. Alcohol, drugs, these become coping mechanisms when you don't feel like you have any other options. It's a way to numb the pain you don't talk about, to escape the thoughts that keep you up at night. But here's the thing. We're not just talking about statistics. Behind every number is a real person, a father who's trying to hold it together for his kids, a veteran who's haunted by what he's seen, a first responder who has spent years putting other people's lives before his own. These are real men with stories, and so many of them are suffering in silence. And why? Why aren't more men reaching out for help? Because the stigma runs deep. It's been drilled into us since we were kids. We've been taught to man up, to bury our emotions, to handle things on our own. We've been told that asking for help is a sign of weakness, that real men don't cry, don't feel anxious, don't get depressed. But let me ask you something. How's that working out for us? The answer is, it's not. It's slowly killing us. And for the first responders, police officers, firefighters, EMTs, and military personnel, the burden is even heavier. These men and women see things most people never will. They carry the weight of trauma, grief, and stress on their shoulders every day. Yet the culture of silence is even stronger in these professions. We live in a society where first responders and military personnel are expected to be unshakable, mentally and physically tough, because of what they do and what they see day in and day out. Long hours, late shifts, the constant exposure to life and death situations, it all takes a toll. But they come to work every day, zip up their boots, put on their uniforms, and do the job without missing a beat. They solve everyone else's problems, often without stopping to ask, how am I doing? And yet behind that exterior that's tough, many are struggling. They carry invisible wounds, anxiety, depression, PTSD, but they're conditioned to stay quiet because that's what strong men are supposed to do, right? Stay silent, push through, don't let anyone see their cracks. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's time we redefine what it means to be strong. Real strength isn't about bottling things up or pretending you're fine when you're not. Real strength is about what's inside and facing it, working through it, and coming out the other side stronger. And you don't have to do it alone. The good news is things are slowly starting to change. There's been progress. More men are talking about men's mental health. More people are sharing their stories, and more resources becoming available. The conversation is opening up, but it's still not enough. There's still a long way to go before seeking help is seen as a sign of strength, not weakness. And that's why I'm here. That's why this podcast exists. This isn't just a podcast, it's a conversation. It's a place where we can talk openly about the struggles men face, the stigma that holds us back, and the steps we can take to heal and grow. We're going to explore real stories, hard truths, and practical tools for prioritizing men's mental health and well being. Whether you're a first responder, a veteran, a father, a son, or just a man trying to navigate life's ups and downs, this is a space for you. A space where you can listen, learn, and maybe even start to open up about what's going on in your own life. Because you're not alone. Let's start by talking about the numbers, because the numbers don't lie. Men who bottle up their struggles are at a significantly higher risk for severe depression, addiction, and even suicide. It's not something that only affects a handful of people. It's a widespread issue. And here's the thing, it doesn't just affect the man who are struggling. It affects their relationships, their families, and even their careers. When we stay silent about our mental health, we're not protecting anyone. In fact, we're doing the opposite. We're creating a ripple effect, and we'll get into that more in a bit. But first, let's break down what happens when men push their emotions down and choose to ignore what's really going on inside. Now, I want you to think. Imagine that you're carrying a backpack, and every time you experience stress, anxiety, or pain, you put a rock in that backpack. At first, might not feel like a big deal. You can carry it, no problem. But over time, those rocks start to add up. And eventually that backpack becomes so heavy that you're struggling to take even one more step. That's what happens when we push our emotions down, when we ignore them, suppress them, or try to numb them. We're not making them go away. We're just carrying them around in that invisible backpack. And eventually that weight becomes unbearable. It starts to show up in different ways. Maybe you start drinking more after work, telling yourself it's just to take the edge off. Maybe you start losing your temper more often, snapping at your kids, your partner, or your coworkers. Because all that stress inside has to come out somehow. Or maybe it's not even that obvious. Maybe it's quieter than that. You start withdrawing. You stop reaching out to friends. Stop doing the things you used to enjoy. And before you know it, you're feeling completely isolated. That's what depression often looks like. It sneaks up on you. And here's the thing. When men reach that point, when they've been silent for so long and the pain feels unbearable, that's when the risk for addiction and suicide becomes very real. Let's get back to that number for a minute. Remember earlier I mentioned 7.5 million men in the U.S. alone have contemplated suicide in just 1 year. That's not because they're weak. It's because they've been carrying a load that no one can carry alone. And it's not just the men themselves who are affected. Mental health struggles don't exist in a vacuum. They have a ripple effect. They impact the people around you. Think about your relationships. When you're struggling mentally, it can be really hard to show up for the people you love. You might not have the energy or patience to be fully present. You might start pulling away emotionally, even if you don't mean to. And that can leave your partner feeling confused, hurt, or even rejected. It's the same with your kids. If you're short tempered or checked out because you're dealing with your own inner turmoil, your kids are going to notice. They might not understand what's going on, but they'll feel it. Kids are like sponges, they absorb the emotional energy around them, even if they can't put it into words. And that can have a long term impact on their well being. And then there's your career. When your mental health is suffering, your performance at work can suffer too. Maybe you're not as focused as you used to be, or maybe you're calling out more often because you just don't face another day. Over time, that can lead to missed opportunities, strained relationship with coworkers, or even just a job. So let's talk about that for a second. I know in my own life, recently, I've had issues. I've had arguments. I've had a death. And I can be honest, like in my own profession, I have to show up every day at my best. I have to be there because if I don't, it might mean I don't come home, you know? And I'll say, like, there's been days where I've gone to work recently where I don't feel like doing anything. I just sit and do nothing. I don't eat. I don't go out and do my job. I just sit there and just watch the clock just go by. Click, talk, tick, talk. And then eventually, cool, the end of shift reach. I clock out, I change out, and I go home. I do that. And there's been a few days where I've done it in days in a row. What I found was talking about it helped. But I'm there too. This is what I mean when I say mental health struggles have a ripple effect. It's not just about you, it's about the people who care about you. It's about the life you're building and the legacy you want to leave behind. For first responders, our police officers, firefighters, EMTs, and military members, the weight is even heavier. These men and women see things most people will never have to see, and they carry that burden that most people will never understand. They deal with life and death situations on a regular basis. They see trauma up close, car accidents, house fires, violent crimes, combat situations, and that kind of exposure takes a toll. It's called cumulative trauma, and it builds up over time. Maybe the first few calls don't seem to affect you much. But after years on the job, after seeing tragedy after tragedy, it starts to wear you down. You might start having nightmares or flashbacks. You might feel hypervigilant all the time, like you're constantly on edge. Or you might feel emotionally numb, like you can't connect with people the same way you used to. And here's a really tough part. In these professions, there's still the expectation that you have to be tough, that you have to suck it up, and no matter what, keep going. Because that's what the job requires, right? You put the uniform on, you zip up your boots, and you get to work. No matter how much you're hurting inside. Now, to be fair, things are slowly starting to change. There's more awareness about mental health in these professions than there used to be. More first responders are talking about it. More people in leadership positions are acknowledging the importance of mental health. And more departments are offering resources like peer support teams, counseling, and mental health training. And that's a good thing. It's progress. It's a step in the right direction. But here's the hard truth. It's still not enough. We still have a long way to go because even with these positive changes, the stigma is still there. And that stigma runs deep. It's ingrained in culture of a lot of those professions, especially in fields like law enforcement, firefighting, and the military. For decades, maybe even longer, there's been this unspoken and sometimes very spoken message that asking for help is a sign of weakness. The real men tough it out. That's what you're supposed to do. Suck it up. Push your emotions aside and keep going because that's what the job requires, right? You put on the uniform, you lace up your boots, and you do your duty no matter what. And when you're constantly surrounded by that kind of culture, it can feel almost impossible to admit that you're struggling. You might be afraid that people will judge you. You might worry that your coworkers will look at you differently or that your superiors will think you're not capable of doing your job. And those fears are valid because let's be honest, that stigma hasn't completely gone away yet. It's still there, lingering in the background, making it harder for men to open up and ask for the help they need. But here's what I want to say to you, and I want you to really hear this out. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Let me say that again. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's actually one of the bravest, strongest things you can do because it takes courage to admit that you're struggling. It takes courage to say, I'm not okay. It takes courage to face your pain, your trauma, your emotions head on instead of running from them or trying to bury them. Real strength isn't about bottling things up and pretending you're fine when you're not. It's about acknowledging your struggles and taking steps to heal. It's about recognizing that you're human, that you have limits, and that it's okay to need support sometimes because nobody, no matter how strong, tough, or capable they are, can carry the weight of the world on their own. And here's the thing. When you take the first steps and ask for help, you're not just helping yourself. You're helping to break down the stigma that's been holding so many men back for so long. You're setting an example for the people around you. You're showing your coworkers, your friends, your family, and even your kids that it's okay to talk about mental health and that it's okay to ask for help when you need it. And that there's no shame in taking care of your mental health and emotional well-being. And that's how real change happens. It starts with an individual, men like you, deciding enough is enough, that they're not going to stay silent anymore, that they're going to be part of the solution instead of letting the stigma continue to control them. So if you're listening to this and you're struggling, I want you to know you're not alone and you don't have to go through this alone. There are people who care about you and want to help, whether it's a friend, a family member, or a coworker, or a mental health professional. Reach out. Start the conversation. And if you're a first responder, know that there are resources out there specifically for you. Peer support programs, counseling services, crisis hotlines. You don't have to carry this weight by yourself. Let's change the narrative around men's mental health. Let's break the silence. Let's support each other because we're all in this together. So here are some actionable takeaways of how you can start prioritizing your mental health today. Some things I want you to think about. Start small. You don't have to open up to the whole world. Just talk to one person that you trust. Let them know how you're really feeling. Sometimes talking and taking that first step can lift a huge weight off your shoulders. I know it did for me. Challenge the narrative. The next time you hear someone say, man up, take it as an opportunity to start a conversation. Ask, what does that really mean? And is it actually helping anyone? Conversations like this can help the stigma and break it, especially around men's mental health. Find support, whether it's therapy, a men's group, or an online community. There are resources out there that can make a difference. You don't have to figure it out all alone. Find the support system that works for you and take the next step towards healing. Taking these steps might feel uncontrollable and uncomfortable at first, especially if you spent years or even decades keeping your emotions bottled up. But remember, healing is just a process. You don't have to do it all alone and all at once. Just take the first step, then the next, and then the next. Because you don't have to carry this burden alone. There are people who care about you, who want to listen, and who want to help. And by taking action, by starting that conversation, challenging the old narratives, and seeking out support, you're not just helping yourself, you're helping to change the culture around men's mental health for the better. It's time to redefine what it means to be stronger. Let's do it together. If there's one thing I want you to take away from today's episode, it's this. You are not weak for struggling. You are not alone in this battle, and seeking help is not just okay, it's necessary. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you're struggling, reach out to a friend, a professional, or even just someone in your life who will listen. In episode 2, we take a hard look at the silent rules society places on men, the unspoken expectations that tell them to man up, hide their emotions, and carry their burden alone. Don't miss this deep dive into the emotional conditioning that's been holding men back for too long. Before we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with an important reminder. You are not alone. If you or someone you know is struggling, help is available, and you don't have to take and face this alone. If you're in the United States, you can reach the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK, or simply dial 988 for immediate support. Trained professionals are available 24/7 to listen, provide guidance, and help you through your darkest moments. Remember, reaching out for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Let's keep breaking the silence, supporting each other, and building stronger minds and stronger men. Thank you for being here, and until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other.